Manx Radio's Update with Lewis Foster.
Fast am I. Good evening. It's 5 o'clock on Monday evening, the 2nd of September. I hope your week is off to a good start, despite the weather. Coming up on Update in the next half hour, government says it's working to tackle misinformation on social media. How long will it take for steam packet operations to return to normal at Heysham? And we hear how there are no plans to restrict outside smoking on the Isle of Man. We'll also keep you posted on anything to watch out for travel-wise, and as ever, your thoughts always welcome 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. First of all, let's join Siobhan Fletcher with a look at the stories that have been making the headlines on the Isle of Man today. Fast am I, Siobhan.
Fast am I. A decision on plans for 92 new homes in Peel has been deferred to allow members of the planning committee to carry out a site visit. The proposals from Dandara would see the estate built on land adjacent to Peel Golf Course. At a meeting of the planning committee this morning, members heard concerns over what an impact an increase in population would have on the town's infrastructure. Meanwhile, plans to convert the former Ramsey Bakery building in Ramsey have been unanimously approved by the planning committee. The site on Station Road in the heart of the town is to be used as industrial, storage and office space. The island's financial regulator is warning of a fraudulent invoice circulation which claims to be from the regulator itself. The message carries the Financial Service Authority's logo and contact details, prompting recipients to pay funds to the authority for notarisation of agreement. It's signed by a Joan C. Hudson, purportedly on behalf of the authority, and it sends people to a cloned version of the FSA website. Retailers on the Isle of Man are now banned from displaying e-cigarettes and vaping products in store. The ban came into force yesterday. Compliance checks are expected to be carried out to ensure shops are meeting the new requirements. And 38 babies were born at Nobles Hospital in August. Statistics from the Jane Crookall maternity unit show 17 boys and 21 girls were delivered. Further afield, Joe Biden has criticised Israel's Prime Minister and accused him of not doing enough to bring about a hostage deal. The wife of a Tory councillor has pleaded guilty of stirring up racial hatred over a tweet posted on the day 3 girls were stabbed to death in Southport. And Britain have added another 6 medals to their tally so far today at the Paralympics. That's all for now. I'll be back with your news at 6.
Grommayed. Thank you, Siobhan. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Cloudy with the risk of a few outbreaks of patchy light rain. Light northwest winds will freshen this evening. Overnight temperature dipping to 12 degrees. Dry tomorrow morning, but turning cloudy with the risk of a few showers in the afternoon. Light to moderate, mainly westerly wind and a top temperature of 17 degrees. Sunshine and isolated showers on Wednesday, moderate northwest wind and a highest temperature of 16 degrees. Sunset tonight is at 8:05, sunrise tomorrow at 6:31.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown or at Broadway, Douglas, or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
Ambitions Recruitment Consultants, covering all business sectors in the Isle of Man. Register online or email your CV to info@ambitions.co.im or ring 614 841. Ambitions, for all your recruitment needs, however big or small.
We all need peace of mind. That's where Peace of Mind Manx Will Writing Services can help you. From just £149 plus VAT. Call 671 001 or go to peaceofmind.co.im.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And the time now coming up to 5:05. It's not known how long it will take for operations at Heysham Port to return to normal. It's after an incident with the Manxman last month has left its usual berth closed whilst an inspection is carried out to assess any potential damage. In the meantime, coaches are being used to transport foot passengers to and from the terminal. Steam Packet Managing Director Brian Thompson's been telling Amy Griffiths exactly what happened.
The knock-on effect of the incident that happened with the Manxman struck the key and pushed the link span is that we can't use that number one link span that we normally use, so we're pushed onto one of the others, which means that we've got a problem with foot passengers getting on and off the boat, so we've had to use coaches, which is adding a bit of time to the journey. It's quite inconvenient for them as well. Unfortunately, in these circumstances, there isn't much choice. We're working closely with Peel Ports, who are the operators of Heysham, to try and sort of make that process a little bit quicker as much as we can. But it's never going to be as slick as when we're on number one, so we really need to get that back into operation as soon as possible. And unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have a timescale for that, but the number one priority is passenger safety, whether that's foot passengers getting off under these circumstances on the coaches, etc., or the link span being operational. We need to take safety into consideration.
Because it is such a much bigger vessel, a lot of the social media experts have been querying whether or not that has been down to the incident. Is there any truth to that at all, do you think?
I think that's difficult to argue against because she clearly is bigger and does have a bigger windage area, but she was required to be bigger. It's part of what was, in the sea services agreement, that we had to build a vessel that had X amount of extra freight lanes and X amount of extra passengers, so she was always going to have to be bigger. You can't have bigger without extra windage, etc., because we're limited by the draft of the vessel, so that size has to go somewhere else. But it's, as I said, all the other vessels in the company's history have had these incidents and they've all been smaller, so I think it's a bit of a moot point, really.
But is it something that we could maybe expect to see happening more often because of the Manxman size?
I wouldn't say so, no. I think the Ben McCree, which is considerably smaller, has had these types of incidents over the years as well.
When would you like to be seeing things running back to normal at Heysham?
As soon as possible. We would love to get back to doing normal operations as soon as possible.
Steam Packet Managing Director Brian Thompson speaking with Amy there. Now, a decision on plans for 92 new homes in Peel has been deferred to allow members of the planning committee to carry out a site visit. Dandara's proposals would see the estate built on land adjacent to Peel Golf Course. News editor Tessa Hawley joins me now. Tessa, what do we know about this application?
Well, as we reported back in February, Lewis, this plan marks phase 2 of the developer's plans for the west of the island, and it includes a mix of 2, 3, 4 and 5 bedroom properties. 23 of those would be classed as affordable. But at the meeting of the planning committee this morning, members heard from 2 objectors who said there isn't enough infrastructure in the town to accommodate an increase in population. One told the committee that people in the town already struggle to get GP appointments, parking is already congested and schools are full. Now, speaking on behalf of Dandara, applicant David Humphrey argued that the area has been zoned for residential use for 30 years and the availability of schools and healthcare facilities is government's responsibility. He said the provision of affordable housing was in line with government's targets to boost the island's population and that the developers had worked very hard to meet the requirements set out by the various government departments.
So ticking the right boxes, but people yet to be convinced it's the right place and the right time.
Yes, so Chair of the Planning Committee Rob Collister said a few times that he felt sorry for this application, noting how provision of affordable housing, solar panels and temporary sewage treatment plans had been accounted for. But he also acknowledged that the Planning Committee had only recently approved the use of temporary classrooms, now that's at QE2 High School, to help it accommodate additional pupils over the 2024 to 25 academic year. And whilst plans for a permanent sewage treatment plant in Peel have been approved, which any future development on this site would connect to, an appeal has been lodged. There were also objections from Glenn Faber and Peel MHK Kate Lord-Brennan, as well as German and Peel Town Commissioners, all of which revolved around concerns with the town's infrastructure.
So what's next?
Well, there's clearly a lot to consider, and first of all, members of the Planning Committee agreed today that what they would like to do is undertake a site visit and get a better sense of the location and the surrounding highways. That's expected to take place later this month, and then another meeting of the Planning Committee where members will make that final decision will follow.
News editor Tessa Hawley, Gurmayed.
What's your opinion on the Update news agenda? Email update@manxradio.com or call 682 631.
The time now 5:10. Government says it's actively working to improve how it engages with the community. The issue has been identified as a priority area due to the popularity of social media and the need to challenge misinformation, as Sean Cowper reports.
It comes after Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas asked whether there are plans for a review of government communications. Government's centralised communications service sits within Cabinet Office and was set up in 2014 to cover public relations, the media and communications issues. In response to Mr Thomas's question, Chief Minister Alfred Cannon said work is underway to improve this area, including a need to address and challenge misinformation and disinformation in the public domain. Mr Cannon confirmed an island-based contracted expert has been brought in on a part-time limited-term basis to objectively assess the process currently in place and identify how better outcomes can be achieved. Advice and guidance has been provided since April with the aim of improving government's approach over the next 12 months. Mr Cannon says an external review at additional expense is not planned at this time.
Sean Cowper with that report. A director of a Manx charity that helps developing nations grow their financial sectors says the island would be cutting itself off from opportunities if it didn't help others. Gary Roberts from the Small Countries Financial Management Programme believes the organisation's work plays an important role in protecting the island's reputation. He's been speaking to Phil Gaughan.
It's very easy to kick a place like the island, and the Isle of Man's had a bad press over the summer, really, and it's important to try to offset that. And the work that we do does offset that. Eddie Tear, when he was the Treasury Minister, said that our work shows that the Isle of Man is part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think he was absolutely right, because the virtuous stuff that we do shows that you can make a difference, and it shows that a very small island community can have a social conscience, if you like, and that social conscience allows it to support poorer small countries around the world, which I think is a fantastic thing to do.
Do you think people on the Isle of Man get this? Because I'm guessing that many people haven't really thought in huge amount of depth about international development, about how potentially you can support developing countries. And do you think they get this, people on the island?
I have a fear that sometimes people don't get it. There will be people who think we should spend more at home, and I absolutely understand that. But we live in a global world, we live in a connected world, and a world where the island itself will be prey to bigger powers if we don't show that we're part of the world community and that we're pulling our weight. I think there's a danger of becoming insular in our thinking. And if we're insular in our thinking, we cut ourselves off from opportunities across the world to influence the bigger players. Now, we're due a Moneyval assessment. I don't know when that is. I'm not part of that world anymore, but I think that'll be about 2026. The island will need to show how it combats money laundering and the financing of terrorism and the likes. But if it also tells a story about how it equips other countries to do things like that, small countries that don't remotely have the resources that the Isle of Man has, then that gathers us a lot of credit. And so, yes, I think people are right to say we need to focus on what we do within the island, but we lose out so greatly if we don't focus on outside as well, if we don't look at what does the world out there mean to the Isle of Man and what part does the Isle of Man play in that world out there.
The familiar voice of Gary Roberts from the Small Countries Financial Management Programme. And Phil Gaughan, of course. Taking a look at the business news on the Isle of Man today, I Am Gold has donated a rare 1 kilogram solid silver ingot shaped like the island to Hospice Isle of Man. It was raffled over 3 days during the Ramsey Crookall Polo Viking Cup event, and the winner was Ricky Broadbent of Quine and Cubban. The raffle raised a total of £4,750, with every penny going to support the palliative and end-of-life care that Hospice Isle of Man provides across the island. IAMGOLD are the only precious metals and bullion dealers on the island with independently owned vaults in the heart of Douglas. Chief Executive of Hospice, John Knight, says the silver ingot is very unusual and really impressive. We're immensely grateful to IAMGOLD for their generosity, which has resulted in a sizable donation towards our services for patients and families. Now for the latest stock market report with Ramsey Crookall. European stocks made modest gains with trading relatively subdued because US markets are closed for the Labor Day public holiday. On the data front, a series of final readings of manufacturing forward-looking indicators from across Europe were released today. This included Eurozone manufacturing activity, which remained firmly in contractive territory, weighed down by Germany and France. Elsewhere, the UK manufacturing PMI increased to a 26-month high of 52.5 in August, which is in expansion territory, according to the report by S&P Global. Any reading above 50 suggests a positive outlook. The markets at the close, the FTSE 100 down 0.2% to 8,359. The DAX up 0.1% to 18,926. And at the close on Friday, Dow Jones up 0.55% to 41,563. The S&P 500 up 1.01% to 5,648. And the Nasdaq up 1.13% to 17,713. British pound sterling trading at 1.314 US dollars and 1.187 euros. Gold down 0.07% to $2,501, and a barrel of Brent down 0.05% to $76.95.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
17 minutes past 5.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So a good time to take a look around the roads. A section of the mountain road was due to close today, but the inclement weather meant the road remained open. The matrix signs are warning of fog though, so if you are heading that way, keep an eye out. Tomorrow the mountain road is due to close between Barrule Park, Ramsey and the Thalty Will Road from 9:30 until 8 p.m. for the removal of MGP signage and equipment. In Onken, there are temporary lights on Summerhill near Hague Drive, 24 hours a day for gas main work. In Douglas, until the 25th of October, temporary lights replacing the main lights at the Brown Bobby, 24 hours a day there for roof repairs and scaffolding. There are temporary lights as well at Banks Circus if you're around North Quay. Those are for gas main repairs. And between Baldrine and Laxey, temporary lights on the Coast Road between Baldrine and the Len at the Ballabeg tram crossing, 24 hours a day for work on the crossing there. Now over at the airport, things seem to be running smoothly. All flights expected in and out on time this evening. And on the sailings, Manxman is due back from Heysham at 6:20, heading back to Lancashire at 7:45. Manannan is set to arrive in Liverpool in half an hour's time. She'll be departing back at 7:15 and arriving back in Douglas this evening at around 10 o'clock.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Coming up to 19 minutes past 5. There are no plans to introduce new rules restricting outside smoking, according to the Isle of Man government. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer vowed to do more to reduce smoking, with reports suggesting he could ban it in many spaces, including pub gardens and playgrounds. Christian Jones has the details.
Public Health says it is aware of discussion in the UK regarding changes that the Labour government could be planning to make. A survey by YouGov has found the vast majority of people there back proposals, but Reform UK leader Nigel Farage claims it would lead to cigarette sales being placed in the hands of criminal gangs.
Look at Australia, where cigarettes are 35 quid a packet. The big drug dealers don't bother with cocaine anymore. They just sell illegal cigarettes. It's led to gang warfare and 97 firebombings in Melbourne in the last 2 years.
Hospitality experts in England claim it'll badly affect trade, but Dr. Sharon Cox from UCL's Tobacco and Alcohol Research Group thinks it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
We're living in a changing world. People want to go out and have a different type of nighttime economy, and we need to embrace that and not be looking to a behaviour which we know and have decades of evidence is actively harmful.
Here on the island, the boss of the Jacks Group, Andy Gibbs, has told Manx Radio the impact of bringing in such a proposal would affect his operations massively.
Well, I get where they're coming from with the health issues and everything. Nobody, people want to give up smoking, and it does cause major problems for the health service. But bearing in mind, they do also receive lots and lots of taxes through smokers, and they seem to be getting the raw end of the stick, as with the hospitality industry is all the time. I mean, a lot of hospitality places are actually really struggling. I mean, I feel for people that have spent a fortune on smoking areas that are outside. And another thing is, how do we actually police this? Are we going to police it, or is the police going to police it? How do we go about this? Because we've got to employ extra people to stand outside and make sure that they're not smoking outside. Just seems to be too much of a nanny state.
Christian Jones with that report, and Andy Gibbs there. If you have any thoughts on tonight's stories, 166 177, or email studio@manxradio.com. The time now 21 minutes past 5. Two siblings are preparing to take on a walking challenge to raise money for a charity which supports their visually impaired little brother. The annual Coast to Coast walk in aid of Sight Matters will take place on Sunday. Callum and Emily Bentham, who will be walking the 12 miles, told Manx Radio they want to raise money to help people like their little brother, Aidan.
Last year I did 12 miles, and this year I think we're going to do the 12 miles again.
We're going to have our family with us, and our little brother's going to get out the pram and do some at the end. I want to raise around 550 to get stuff to help people and buy more stuff so they can help more people.
And do fun activities. He likes the Freedom Field. There's like a little flower area, and he loves that. And he loves like running around the field and running away from our mum and dad.
So would you guys say this organisation is one that's really helped your little brother?
Yeah, because it makes him have more friends and just go out more.
Did you guys understand when he was born?
Well, I think I said, why does he have one eye? And they said, because he was born like that, but it's still okay, you can still see out of one eye. And he got like a clear one, and then he got like one that looks like a realistic eye, and it looks so real. It's because you have like something wrong with you, it doesn't matter. I'm slow, I don't care about it, because I might be slow at running, but I'm good at hiding. Like, I mean, if anyone bullies him, he has me and my sister, all my friends and all that, because I've already told them about him. I said how great he is, even though he's got a pathetic eye. He's still really good, and he's a good person.
There's nothing like the support of siblings, is there? Callum and Emily Bentham speaking to Manx Radio, Chanel Suku there. You can find out more on that report at manxradio.com.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Coming up to 24 minutes past 5 now, let's have the latest sporting news with Darren Timpson. Faster my, Darren.
Faster my. Starting with FC Isle of Man, manager Paul Jones has said his side were on the wrong side of refereeing decisions during their draw with Colne on Saturday. The Ravens had to come from behind to rescue the point, which put them 13th in the table on 8 points. The Manx side has been struggling for form since the beginning of the season, as they have only won 2 of their opening 8 games, and the FC Isle of Man boss thinks his side has been denied 3 points this weekend.
Yeah, we had a perfectly good goal disallowed in the first half. We can't quite get our heads around that, and missed a couple of opportunities, I think, and then played much better in the second half. The pitch was really sticky, didn't really understand excuses, but the ball didn't really travel on the pitch, and we took quite a while to get used to that. We've not played well, we've not done what I thought we were capable of, but we've acquitted ourselves and worked really, really hard, and should really be walking away with 3 points.
Ravens boss Paul Jones. Ireland football returned this weekend, and defending Premier League champion Ayr United won a 10-goal thriller 7-3 at home against Laxey. Elsewhere, Foxdale won their first match back in the top flight since 1996 as they beat Rushden United 3-1. In tennis, 2 players dominated at the LTA IOM County Championships during the weekend. Ori Farnworth and Charlotte Clark competed in every tournament possible as they won their respective classes and also won in the mixed doubles competition together. Firstly, in the men's final, Farnworth beat Sean Drury in 2 sets, while Clark also dismissed Sarah Long in 2 sets to take the women's singles trophy on Saturday. Farnworth and Drury teamed up to win the men's doubles final, while singles finalists Clark and Long also joined in the women's doubles competition where they finished first in the standings. Farnworth and Clark then teamed up to win the mixed doubles competition on Friday. In cricket, 2 cup competitions took place during the weekend. Crosby beat Finch Hill by 59 runs at Marown to win the Tinker Cup on Sunday, and finally Valkyries beat Peel by 3 runs in the final over to win the Blinko Cup on Saturday.
Darren Simpson, Guru Myed, thank you. In other news on the Isle of Man today, the Manx government has not held talks with the UK over housing asylum seekers on the Isle of Man. Chief Minister Alfred Cannon has confirmed the UK government has made no approach and there have been no discussions with any other body. Responding to a Tynwald written question from Arbury, Castletown and Maloo MHK, Jason Morehouse, Mr Cannon says the Isle of Man cannot make its own rules on immigration or nationality and cannot receive or process asylum seekers. It comes despite reports in the UK media in 2021 claiming Britain was considering sending asylum seekers here for processing. You can find more on that story and all of tonight's stories over at manxradio.com. And that's it from Update for this evening. Do remember you can contact us in the Manx Radio newsroom at any time by email. It's newsroom@manxradio.com. And as always, there's much more on tonight's stories on the Manx Radio website, including interviews in full in the newscast section. Coming up next, we have Island Life, and after 6, it's Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley. Update will be back at the same time tomorrow.